For 25 years, I had managed to raise my stepdaughter with twists and turns, and then I got a call that she had given birth. Feeling overjoyed, I excitedly went out to buy a gift to celebrate. My husband Robert drove me to my daughter Emily's apartment the next day. We took the elevator up, and when we reached her door, I noticed a strange sign hanging outside.
No outsiders allowed.
Well, it's their home, so that makes sense. But was there some other meaning behind it? Tilting my head in confusion, I rang the doorbell. Emily quickly appeared from inside and shut the door behind her.
Oh, old hag, you actually came.
What? I glanced over at Robert, who had an awkward smirk on his face. What's going on?
Can't you see? It says no outsiders allowed. You're not related by blood, so you're not family. That means you can't come in.
I desperately tried to process what was happening, but my mind was blank. Then, what about everything up until now? I thought you had accepted me.
It was all an act. You see, Luke is the kind of person who values family. So if he saw what a mess our home really was, he would have been completely disillusioned.
I had certainly been strict while raising her, but it was all for Emily's sake. If she saw it as a mess, then she was completely mistaken. Most of the chaos in that home had been caused by Robert's behavior. I had been completely denied.
Well, that's just how it is.
Robert gave me that same cold, unsettling smile as he opened the front door and walked inside.
Oh, by the way, I'll be living here from now on, so go ahead and bring my stuff over.
Where did I go wrong? What had I done? Something inside me, something I had been holding onto for so many years, finally snapped. I see, that's enough. It was my high school reunion. I had left my corporate job and started working as a freelancer. At the reunion, I fully soaked in the mix of nostalgia and fresh new energy in the air.
It's been a while, Amanda.
Suddenly, someone called out to me. When I turned around, I saw Robert, the most popular guy from our high school days. Robert, you haven't changed at all.
You haven't either, Amanda.
With his striking looks, he was the heartthrob of our class, admired by every girl. And of course, I had been one of them. The feelings I had long buried suddenly resurfaced, blooming like a flower.
Hey, how about we slip away from here and grab a drink, just the two of us?
To my surprise, he made the first move. I had no reason to refuse. Of course, I'd love to. I answered without hesitation. Back in high school, Robert had been incredibly popular, but for some reason, he was single now. And he was the one who said, "I want to be with you," before I even had the chance to ask. If you had waited a little longer, I was planning to say it first.
Oh, really? That's good to know.
And just like that, I finally fulfilled a love that had lasted for 10 years. But then, Robert revealed an unexpected truth.
Actually, I'm divorced and I have a kid.
What? That was definitely something I would have preferred to know up front. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts and make sense of the situation.
It's a little girl. Her name is Emily, and she's 5 years old.
A wave of complex emotions washed over me, but somewhere in my heart, I found myself thinking, if she's Robert's child, then maybe it's okay. Let me meet her sometime.
Of course. When are you free? I'll bring her along.
I'm a freelancer, so I can adjust to your schedule.
Thanks. How about this Saturday?
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice to meet you. I'm Emily.
Hi. Nice to meet you too. I'm Amanda. Emily was a bit on the energetic side, but overall, she was a polite and well-mannered child. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of Robert's dedication as a single father. As I spent more time with Robert and his daughter, he suddenly made an unexpected proposal.
Amanda, if you're okay with it, will you marry me?
I was completely caught off guard. It was a tempting offer, but there was one thing that I just couldn't shake, and that was Emily's presence. Would I be able to love her as my own? That was my only concern. But deep down, I had always wanted children, and Emily was such a wonderful child. After a brief pause, I resolved my inner conflict. Yes, I will. Sometime after we got married, Robert suddenly dropped a shocking announcement.
I quit my job.
What? Why? I was so taken aback that I couldn't help but blurt out exactly what I was thinking.
It was exhausting.
What about your next job? I was still working, and we had some savings left, so we might be able to manage for a while. But there was a limit to how long that could last.
Don't worry, I'll find something soon.
I couldn't blindly trust him and take his words at face value, but since he said so, I decided to wait for a little while. However, he kept switching jobs, starting and quitting over and over, never finding any real stability. As time went on, even when he was unemployed, he gradually stopped helping out with housework or childcare. I was deeply worried about Robert and tried countless times to support him, but the real problem was that Robert himself refused to face it. Little by little, Robert stopped coming home, and at his worst, he would only be home 1 day a week. He wouldn't even tell me where he was or what he was doing. On the rare occasions when Robert was home, he would sometimes erupt in anger, but I couldn't bring myself to firmly stand up to him. Still, I had to take care of Emily. I forced myself to stay strong, balancing both my job to support our household and raising her. I didn't want Emily to end up like Robert, so I was a bit strict with her. At the same time, I tried to shield her from the truth, always telling her, "Your dad is just really busy with work." But despite my wishes, Emily grew much more attached to the kind father who occasionally came home, rather than the strict stepmother who was always there. Maybe it was only natural, but I started to doubt whether what I was doing was truly right. The strained atmosphere in our home continued for nearly 20 years, and before I knew it, Emily had become a college student. The atmosphere at home was nothing short of unbearable. Emily and I had moved past mere arguments. We barely even looked at each other, let alone had a proper conversation. Amid all this, I had felt the effects of a sedentary job for a while, realizing I was getting out of shape. More than that, I desperately needed an escape from the suffocating environment at home. I decided to start attending a running school as my new hobby. There, I met a woman named Julie, who was around my age, and we immediately hit it off. Before long, we had naturally become friends.
I've been through a lot in the past, too.
As I listened, I realized she had her own share of struggles. In a way, it felt like our lives had followed similar paths, intertwining in unexpected ways.
Feel free to vent or talk to me anytime. I'm sure I can help in some way.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Julie was incredibly supportive and always stood by my side. It seemed like, in seeing my current situation, she had her own thoughts about it as well. As time passed, Julie became an irreplaceable friend to me. The moment I seemed even slightly different from usual, Julie was the first to notice and would immediately step in to help me let off steam. Eventually, Emily graduated from college, and with that, she decided to move out. While a part of me felt a sense of loneliness, I also found myself somewhat relieved. At least she could finally escape this stifling environment. Not long after Emily left, Robert, who had only been coming home once or twice a week, suddenly started spending all his time at home. I immediately turned to Julie for advice. So that's what's happening. What do you think I should do?
Well, unless there's something physically or mentally wrong, he really should be working. Of course, if he's genuinely unwell, then taking time to rest properly is important too.
I honestly have no idea what's going on in his head anymore. I don't even know if something's wrong with him or not.
In that case, you might as well ask him outright, even if it's a long shot.
Taking Julie's advice, I decided to talk to Robert. Robert, do you have a moment?
What?
What's going on with your job? Things are getting really tough, you know. But Robert refused to listen. No matter what I said, no matter how I asked, it was like talking to a brick wall. He just kept dodging my questions, giving vague and half-hearted responses, leaving me with no way to get through to him. In the end, I gave up on talking to him altogether, and our days of silence stretched on even further. A few years later, I got a call from Emily. Emily, what's up? How have you been?
Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something, and I'd like to bring my boyfriend over.
Wait, does that mean?
Yeah, I'm planning to get married.
On another day, Emily brought her boyfriend over to our house. Even Robert, wanting to make a good impression for once, had put some effort into dressing up and was nervously fidgeting as he waited.
Let me introduce you. This is Luke.
Nice to meet you. I'm Luke Carson. I met Emily at work.
Believe it or not, he's actually my boss.
It seemed like they had met through an office romance. His demeanor was gentle and composed, and it was clear that he genuinely loved Emily. That aside, Emily appeared more composed than ever before. She interacted calmly with both Robert and me, showing a level of maturity I hadn't seen before. Seeing her like that, I realized that Emily had truly grown up. At the same time, I deeply felt, oh, she's finally accepted me. The realization hit me so hard that I almost burst into tears. All this time, I had only wanted her to grow into a strong, independent adult, but I often wondered if I had been too strict. But in the end, it all paid off in the right way. Thinking what I did wasn't wrong after all, I let out a deep sigh of relief from the bottom of my heart. A few years after Emily's wedding, life at home remained unchanged. Robert still showed no intention of working. As I seriously worried about our future, I suddenly received a call from Emily. Calls like this usually meant something big had happened. Hello?
Hi, Mom. Big news. The baby is here.
Really? Such incredible news. I couldn't help but raise my voice in excitement.
It's true. That's why I'd love for you to come see my baby. When would be a good time?
I never imagined the day would come when I would have a grandchild. The thought of becoming a grandmother had never even crossed my mind. I never imagined this day would come, but it filled me with deep emotion. I wanted nothing more than to rush over and see my grandchild right away, but unfortunately, I was tied up at the moment. How about tomorrow? I'd love to come today, but I'm swamped with work right now.
Tomorrow? Got it. I'll be ready and waiting.
Of course, the birth of my grandchild was wonderful news. But even more than that, I was overjoyed that my once distant stepdaughter had finally opened her heart to me. This phone call felt like the moment we had finally become a real mother and daughter. I did wish she had told me before the baby was born, but thinking of it as a surprise, it felt rather sweet. Now that everything was set, I needed to hurry and finish my work to be ready for tomorrow. Suddenly, I felt a surge of motivation. That's right, I should share this news with Julie too. I left a message for Julie, telling her that I had become a grandmother, and then turned my attention back to work. The next day, I dressed up nicely and brought the gift I had managed to gather at the last minute.
Are you ready?
He had changed a lot since we last saw each other. He used to be such a handsome man, it was a shame. I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
For some reason today, I felt even calmer than usual, almost as if I were completely composed. There was a clarity to it, almost as if we had returned to the past. Though I couldn't quite understand the reason behind it, it was a bit eerie, but I was grateful that he was behaving normally. At worst, I had even worried that when I woke up this morning, he would be stumbling out the door as usual, off to who knows where. With Robert driving, we arrived at Emily's apartment. We took the elevator up, and when we reached her door, I noticed a strange sign hanging outside.
No outsiders allowed.
Well, it's their home, so that makes sense. I tilted my head, wondering if there was some other intention behind the sign, and rang the doorbell. Soon, Emily appeared from inside and quickly shut the door behind her.
Oh, old hag. You actually came.
What? I glanced over at Robert, who had a creepy, smirking look on his face. What's going on?
Can't you see? It says, no outsiders allowed. You're not family since you're not related by blood, so you can't come in.
I desperately tried to think, but nothing came to mind. Then, what about everything we've been through? Didn't you accept me?
It was all an act. You see, Luke values family, and if he saw what a mess our home was, he would have been completely disillusioned.
I had certainly been strict while raising her. But all of that was for Emily's sake. If she called it a mess, that was a complete misunderstanding. Most of the chaos had been caused by Robert's behavior. I had been completely denied.
Well, that's how it is.
With a cold smile, Robert opened the door and went inside.
Oh, by the way, I'll be living here from now on, so go ahead and bring my stuff.
Where did everything go wrong? What had I done? Inside, something that had been tightly wound for so long snapped. I see. That's enough. With those words, I left the scene alone. However, I had no intention of backing down. Hello? Is it possible to talk now? A few days after the shocking event, I called Emily. Emily, come to the cafe nearby with Robert, right now.
Why? Is there a reason I have to go?
Just come. I said no more and hung up the phone. When I arrived at the cafe I had specified, it wasn't long before Emily and Robert showed up. Both of them wore puzzled expressions, perhaps unsure of what was going to happen.
So, where's the stuff?
Stuff? Oh, I didn't bring anything. But here, take this. Instead of handing over a bag or anything like that, I presented a divorce paper. As soon as Robert saw it, his face went pale. On the other hand, Emily started laughing and turned to Robert.
How is it that you're getting a divorce even though you only do side jobs? Are you out of your mind? You should be glad you're getting divorced.
Side jobs. What's that?
No.
What do you mean, what? You're not even doing a proper job, are you?
Robert visibly started to panic.
Wait a minute.
Emily, what did he tell you?
Dad said he's working a normal job. I heard Mom's job was just for pocket money.
It's all a lie.
What do you mean? But you always said Dad was busy with work.
Back then, I didn't want to hurt you, so I told you Dad's working. That was a lie. I'm sorry.
So, what's the truth then?
Most likely, he used that as an excuse to say, I'm the one supporting the family, right? At this point, it was just speculation, but if that were the case, it made sense that Emily would side with Robert.
Are you asking me to believe this now? There's no way. Forget it. Dad, let's go home.
Emily said this as she tugged at Robert's sleeve, trying to leave while he remained silent.
Wait, Emily.
As I spoke, a woman appeared from the seat next to us and sat down at our table. When Robert saw her, his eyes widened in shock.
Julie, what are you doing here?
It's been a while, Robert.
This is impossible.
I knew you wouldn't believe my side of the story alone, so I called her. Emily, this is your birth mother.
What we're about to say is all the truth. Listen carefully.
And I began to reveal the truth. Robert isn't working at all. I don't even know what he was doing when he wasn't at home. The reason I told you he was working was all a lie, just to protect you.
Why?
I didn't want you to turn out like Robert, so I raised you harshly on purpose. But it all backfired, and you became attached to him. Robert used that to his advantage.
So, who is this person? Is she really my mother?
Yes, I'm sorry I couldn't come see you before.
Julie apologized to her. Julie was Robert's classmate from university, and they had been in a relationship since then. The two of them later became working adults, got married, and were blessed with Emily. However, even back then, Robert had been jumping from job to job. On top of that, he had started playing around with other women, and Julie and Robert were constantly in heated arguments. There were times when Robert even became physically abusive. Under such circumstances, Julie became mentally exhausted. One day, emotionally drained, Julie ended up raising her hand against Emily, who was crying uncontrollably. That moment triggered a deep sense of guilt within Julie, leading her to suffer a mental breakdown and eventually be isolated. During this time, Robert, who had just secured a job, gained custody of Emily and filed for divorce. Domestic violence and infidelity were skillfully concealed, using Julie's lack of the ability to testify as an excuse. Apparently, Robert, eager for the benefits of being a single parent, was pleased to have gained custody. After some time, as Julie gradually recovered, she managed to suppress her desire to see Emily and the lingering resentment toward Robert, slowly returning to her daily life. Time passed, and now, Julie happened to meet me by chance at a running school. As she listened to my story, Julie realized that my husband was Robert, and she eventually confided in me, revealing everything about the past. The feelings she had suppressed for so long, the desire to see Emily, and her inability to ignore someone in a similar situation to hers, all came rushing to the surface.
Is it true?
With tears in her eyes, Emily confronted Robert. Robert said nothing, merely looking down in silence. It was as if he was silently acknowledging everything without saying a word.
Both Amanda and I've been through the same thing. You're his next target, Emily. That's why I came to persuade you.
I'm sorry, but it's all true. I've also been a victim of violence.
So, the reason you were always so strict was,
Yes, everything was for your sake. I've regretted many times that I might have been too strict, but if even a little of that reached you, then it will have been worth it. It seemed that Emily had finally woken up from the deception. As Emily sobbed uncontrollably, Robert, sitting beside her, still didn't say a word, keeping his head down. He looked as though he were in despair over what had happened, but in the end, it was all his own doing. When I thought that the long-awaited punishment for his years of infidelity had finally arrived, it was a relief. Emily reportedly kicked Robert out soon after. Now that he had been presented with divorce papers by me and was also thrown out of the house by Emily, I wondered where Robert would end up. He was already over 50, so I couldn't imagine him being able to find stable, full-time work at this point. However, all of this was simply the result of his own actions. Wherever Robert ended up from now on, it was no longer my concern. A few days after that day's events, Emily came to see me alone. As soon as she arrived, Emily apologized to me.
I'm really sorry for everything.
I had never seen her so sincere outside of the act she put on back then, so I was honestly a little surprised.
I won't make excuses saying I was deceived. I don't expect you to forgive me so easily. I just couldn't help but do this.
That's right. Emily had always been a polite and well-mannered good child. She said she wouldn't make excuses, but in reality, Emily was also a victim in all of this. Certainly, I was shocked by what happened the other day, but the one truly at fault was Robert, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. So, instead of blaming her, there was no reason not to offer comfort. Emily, let's talk inside.
After I kicked Dad out of my house, I told Luke everything that happened that day. And then he got incredibly angry at me.
Luke told her, a person who can't cherish their family could never cherish their own child, and she was scolded quite severely. From my perspective, Robert was the root of all the problems, but objectively speaking, Luke's point wasn't wrong.
Of course, I was already planning to do that, but Luke also told me, go apologize. So that's why I came to apologize.
From Emily's demeanor, it was clear that she was genuinely reflecting on her actions. Having raised her for over 20 years with strict principles, her sense of ethics should be solid. I knew that better than anyone.
I really regret it. Looking back now, I can see that you were strict with me because you truly cared about me. But that person, he was just kind, but he never really did anything for me. When I was a child, I didn't understand, but now I see it clearly. I was wrong.
I can tell that you truly feel that way. So, you don't need to apologize anymore. Yes, I was shocked that day, but I never intended to blame you in the first place.
Will you forgive me?
I told you. I'm not going to blame you. Robert is another story, though.
Thank you.
As she said this, tears welled up in her eyes.
Hey, I have a request. I want to see Julie, my real mom, one more time.
That afternoon, Emily and I waited for Julie at the cafe we had visited a few days earlier. In the meantime, Emily seemed to be nervous, fidgeting the whole time. Last time, she appeared suddenly and immediately began revealing shocking truths, so there was no time for nervousness. But this time, it was different. It's easy to imagine that anyone would feel nervous knowing that their long-lost biological mother would be coming to see them. Soon, from the entrance of the cafe, a familiar figure to me began walking toward us.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
No, not at all. I'm sorry for calling you out of the blue. Emily fidgeted, and with the hesitation of a young child, she nervously said, "Hello." Then we talked about many things, from Emily's elementary school days to her high school years. Back then, I was still getting along well with Emily, but around the middle of her junior high years, tension started to develop between us. We talked about Emily's life from when she entered university up until her marriage. The tensions between us had deepened, turning into a wide gap that separated the two of us. And then we talked about Julie's past.
I've always wanted to apologize. I'm sorry for being such a mother. I'm sorry.
As you did for me, I won't blame you, Julie. Besides, it's all in the past now. I want you to move forward.
Thank you.
At that moment, I saw Julie's tears for the first time. They were pure, genuine tears, nothing fake about them. I recognized those tears. They were a reflection of the bond between a mother and daughter. In this way, after 25 years, peaceful days finally arrived. It wasn't an easy path, and it was long and painful. But still, there were things I gained and things I was able to mend. The greatest thing for me was, without a doubt, being able to properly repair my relationship with Emily. After 25 years, we had finally, in the truest sense, become a family. And now, there's a new member in that family. Hello, it's Grandma.
Don't scare her too much.
How rude. I'm not scary, am I? My grandchild is laughing happily. Watching my newborn grandchild grow is, without a doubt, one of the most joyous moments of my life. There aren't huge changes every day, but no matter how much I watch, I never get tired of it. Now, Julie and I take turns. Sometimes we visit Emily's house together, sharing and enjoying the growth of our grandchild. By the way, Emily, I'm going shopping. Do you need anything?
Wait, can I ask you for something?
I had been so strict with Emily in the past that now, in response, I tended to spoil her a little too much. If I had said something like this to my past self, I wouldn't have believed it. In this way, my life reached a certain turning point, and I moved on to the next stage. I can't help but look forward to my life ahead.